Okay, everyone, we're about to get started. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn. How's everybody doing today? Great, glad to hear it. Just so you know, we are recording this today. We may have some questions going on, so try to say them as loud as you possibly can. If we can't pick it up, then I'll probably repeat them, just so the people that are getting a copy of this afterwards will be able to hear what you guys are asking. So I'm not going crazy. I'm not losing my mind here or anything today, but I just wanted to let you know what's going on. Again, my name is Mike Stallings. I've met many of you before out in the luncheon part of our Lunch and Learn. I spent the better part of the last 10 years or so helping people like you. And, I look around the room, and we have a very diverse group today. And, for example, Janet here I met, who is a property manager for an apartment complex. We have Nick over there in the back. He's a service plumber, but does primarily commercial properties. And also another example is Matt over there, who does a lot of residential properties as a plumber. We have other people here as well from different walks of life. I know some people, excuse me, from some bigger institutions like hospitals. We have a few architects in the room. So I'm very happy we have a very diverse group is what I'm getting at, because, I've spent the better part of my life, my professional career anyway, helping folks like you, whether it's, Janet, showing you ways to save money via, your electric bill and your water bill, or Nick, showing you how you can bring a certain faucet line to your customer, help them recognize a quality piece and value in that, and so on and so forth. And that's what I like to continue doing. My job is to make you guys look good, and that's what I try to do every single day. So what we're going to talk about today, bear with me a second here, it's having some technical difficulties with the slides here. Of course, it wasn't going to go too easy. Here we go. Okay, so the agenda today, we're going to talk about faucets and how they play a role in pretty much everything, and for everybody in this room anyway, in our everyday lives. We're going to talk about water conservation, how to save money. I'm going to show you some products that can save you up to 30% on your water bill. Safety devices, how to prevent catastrophic damage or water damage to your property or for your customer. And at the end, we'll have some open discussion and some questions that I'll hopefully have time enough to answer. I will stay longer if need be to answer all your questions, obviously, but we should have enough time to get through them in the hour or so we have allotted. So first off, we're going to talk about the cost of faucets. And what a lot of people fail to realize is that there is an upfront cost for a faucet. We all know that. We all recognize that. But it's not just the upfront cost. We're talking about, there's maintenance costs on there. There's a cost of, how much is the faucet really worth? When is it, going to be unusable anymore and you have to replace it? The fact that, as I mentioned a minute ago, that everybody needs a faucet, and that it's, not just purchasing cost, and also faucets manufactured in the U.S. versus overseas. So what I've done here is I've taken two different faucets to compare. And on the left here, we're talking about a T&S faucet, gooseneck. Many of you have seen these before. Janet, I'm sure you've seen them in your properties before. You had mentioned to me that you use T&S in some of the common areas, maybe a laundry room, so on and so forth. And on the right here, we have a PPG gooseneck. Now, does anybody know what PPG is? What was that? Yeah, the statement was, no, it's not that. I'm not going to repeat that on the air. PPG actually is a combination of two common companies, one being Wolverine Brass and one being Plum Master. How many people in the room here have heard of Wolverine Brass? Okay, we got about 6 hands there. And again, bear with me, we don't have video on this, so I just want to repeat, there's about a third of the people in the room have heard of Wolverine Brass. How many people have heard of Plum Master? Okay, about 3 or 4 it looks like. All right, so what the 2 of those companies are actually sister companies, and they've now merged together to form PPG, which stands for Professional Plumbing Group. And we'll touch more on them in a minute, but here, I'm sorry, your name's Jeremy. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to meet you out there. What type of business are you in? Okay, to repeat for the online here, Jeremy said that he is part of, you're a maintenance guy at a senior home. Okay, all right, that's what you said. So I'm going to hand this faucet here to Jeremy. What do you think of that? Heavy, right? Jeremy's actually handling one of the PPG faucets here. And I want to compare the 2 here for everyone. So if we look, typically the online cost, if you go online, try to shop for TNS faucet, you're looking at about $160. But where the other cost that many people forget about is, you put this faucet in, you're not just going to replace it the first time something goes wrong with it. You're going to try to fix it. You're going to try to change a part on it. And if you're going to change the handle pair, that's going to cost you about $35. If you have to change the spout, it's going to cost you $35. Change both stems, about $60. So in reality, assuming you only change those parts one time over the life of the faucet, you're looking at $290, which is your true total cost from the time you first put the faucet in to the time you have to replace it, assuming you don't replace these parts again. I know some institutions here will change out the cartridges multiple times or stems multiple times before they actually replace the faucet. So let's take a look at and compare that to the PPG gooseneck. Again, Jeremy, would you say that faucet's about as heavy as a TNS? Have you used these? You guys use them in the rooms? Okay. So what Jeremy just told me was that they use these similar TNS faucet in the rooms of the nursing home that he works in, and he basically just told me that the weight is very similar, and actually it is. The TNS is about 1/3 of a pound heavier, and by the way, you'll see there on the screen the brass shanks on the TNS one. Jeremy can confirm from here and just pass that around, Jeremy. The PPG faucet also has the same brass shanks, just it's not pictured on the diagram here. So you see the initial cost is about $140. That's the normal everyday price. There's a show special today for you guys you can take a look at later. Now this is where it gets interesting. A pair of handles to change on these, it's only about $20. I believe it's $19.90 or something along those lines. So you're looking at about $20 to change the handle. So already you're saving money versus the TNS. You need to change the spout. It's also a little cheaper, only $30. Replacement stems, $0, and this is important. So it brings your total cost to $190. PPG offers a 100-year warranty on their replacement stems, and we're not allowed to say lifetime, but they offer a 100-year warranty. And I'll tell you, if I'm still around after 100 years, I'll make sure you get a free set as well if you still need to replace the stems on your faucet. Right, exactly. So. Yes. I hope I'm still above ground. I'll be 140 at that point. So yes. That's where a big value comes in, where you're talking about a 100-year warranty on changing the stems and getting replacement stems. And one of the big things, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, is that many places will offer you guarantees on their stems. Delta, Moen, I believe TNS may do it as well. But a lot of times it's calling up an 800 number, trying to track down, and you won't have them readily available. But what we do is, let's say, Janet, for example, if you're putting these into your apartment complex, okay, and let's say you said to me, Mike, I want to try now, and I want to put 6 in. So I send you 6 faucets. Besides the 6 faucets, I'm also going to send you 2 or 3 stems or 2 or 3 sets of stems. So that way, in case you get a bad one, you're able to change that out right away. You don't have to call me up. You don't have to track me down. You don't have to run to the supply house, which I'll also touch on in a minute. But, you're going to have those stems on the shelf because, you might get a bad one. You might get one that goes in a month or 2. And, listen, nothing in this world that's made is 100% fail-proof. We've had defective stems. It happens. It happens to any product out there, no matter whether you're talking about a car, a faucet, anything. You get a lemon stem, and the last thing you want to be doing is running to the store, calling up an 800 number, trying to get that free stem when you can have it sitting right on your shelf, which makes a huge advantage, gives you a huge advantage over and time saver, opposed to dealing with you know, a T&S faucet here. Any questions on this so far? Okay, yeah, you in the back. I can't see your name. I'm sorry. Okay, to repeat the question, so everyone online can hear this as well. The question was, are the other parts of the faucet covered as well? And no, as you can see here, as I priced it out on the screen, if I heard your question right, no, there's no 100-year warranty on the handle pair or the spout. It's just on the stems. And but you know, I'm going to get into the. You asked about and you said, oh, there are different types of stems. Yeah, there's a whole thing I want to go into about the faucet line. So I'm not trying to. I'm going to touch on that in a second. So just bear with me. But to answer your question, no, there's no lifetime warranty on the other parts, but they are available, obviously, pretty much in this area, you know, New York, New Jersey area, one-day shipping, and you'll be able to pick those up. Any other questions from the floor there? Okay. All right, so let me just go to the next example. I got a little boo-boo there. You can see you're going to save a total minimum of $100 per faucet, based on the example I showed here. So another faucet comparison. Again, we're talking about a T&S versus the PPG pre-rinse. And I promise you, I'm not just going to pick on T&S. This isn't, you know, I didn't short sell T&S stock or anything. So the T&S is one of the, you know, how many people have commercial kitchens in their property or have worked on a commercial kitchen? Okay, yeah, a bunch of you folks. Okay. So T&S is one of the more common brands you see in a commercial kitchen. And from a cost standpoint, you know, I know a lot of guys pay more than $270 for this pre-rinse. Replacement sprayer is about $59, and we all know the first thing that's going to go on this is probably the sprayer. You know, that faucet's pretty sturdy. It's going to last a long time. You're not going to be changing the faucet anytime soon. But the sprayer is about $59 to replace it, and then you have the replacement cartridges, which are about $60. So your total cost, assuming you only change the sprayer once, which we all know is not going to happen, because those things tend to go every 6 to 12 months because they get a lot of use. You're looking at $389. PPG, now the upfront cost is a little higher, but you make that back immediately because as soon as you go to replace the sprayer, you're going to save $20. And that's a big difference between, that's already putting you in the black when comparing it to T&S. But also when it comes time to change those two stems, you're looking at 100-year warranty again, total cost only $319. Which is a savings of about $70 per faucet. And obviously, those are, you know, I'm basing this on changing that sprayer only once over the lifetime of that faucet. I've talked to guys that have had the faucet itself for 10, 20 years. So you're probably going to change that sprayer quite a few more times. And the, you know, frankly, over the life of the faucet, it's probably more like 6 to 10 times you're going to change it as opposed to just once. So every time you change the sprayer, you're saving an additional $20 versus the cost of the comparing T&S over to PPG. And as I promised, wasn't going to just pick on T&S today. This is a Delta 400, which is a side spray, separate from the deck residential faucet. And this is comparing to a Wolverine 85021. Matt, you're the residential plumber. I want you to take a feel of this faucet here. Hang on, let me walk it back over to you. Okay, you're going to take a feel of that, and that's a little heavy. Can you guess what the weight is on that faucet? 8? Yeah, but it's about 9 pounds. The Delta 400 is actually about 6. So you can tell right off the bat it's a heavier faucet. And as we click through here, you're going to see, I saw this faucet online for $86. I put in there plus the cost of freight because the place I found it online, if you wanted it in 2 days or less, or 2 days to ship it, it was $35 additional. And we all know that if you're going to replace a faucet or if your customer wants a faucet, they want it yesterday. They don't want it in 5 to 7 days, which is the free shipping. Now, I guess if you wanted it free, you could stock up and buy 6 of them and not pay shipping. But keep in mind as well, using PPG, you will get any order over $100, you will not pay shipping on for stock items. And I'm going to go into non-stock and special material items a little bit later. But for now, just to compare, you know, Handle costs $21, sprayer and hose $24. The freight we talked about. To replace the cartridge on there is about $30. So assuming you need it in 2 days or less, which is most times the case, you're looking at about $196 upfront cost for this faucet. Wolverine faucet, wow, big difference, right? It's a little more expensive. It's $123. But just on the weight of that faucet alone, Matt, it's a pretty good deal, right? Yeah. I mean, you're talking, yeah, you're spending an extra $35 or so up front, but you're getting a heavier faucet, faucet manufactured in the U.S., which I'll also touch on in a minute as well. Handle, sprayer, and hose, a little less expensive. I know a lot of you residential guys, the residential plumbers, you're just going to add that to the customer as well. You know, whatever you pay for it, you're marking it up X amount of percent. But just so you know, it is a little more cost effective. No freight, no charge for the cartridge. And Matt, what that means for you is when you go to show this faucet to a customer, just putting it in their hand like I just did to you is going to be a selling point right off the bat. It's a very heavy faucet. I'd be shocked if we found one as heavy for a similar price that's out there. And then you have the 100-year warranty on the cartridge, and obviously the free freight also. But the 100-year warranty, you know, that's up to you. If you want to tell your customer that, say, listen, I'll just make it a service call and come back out here and replace that cartridge for you if you install this today. Or, you know, like I said, you could charge them for it. You could say, look, I can come out there for the faucet, charge you $100 labor or $150 labor, and charge you $50 for the cartridge. That's up to you. You know, because the one benefit of another benefit of using PPG faucets, and we're going to touch on that in a minute, is how do you get these faucets? Professional Plumbing Group, which is Wolverine Brass and Plumb Master. If you look down the second line there, and it says only available to the plumber institution direct. PPG does not sell their faucet line. You won't find it on Amazon. You won't find it on eBay unless it's some guy out in the middle of nowhere selling an extra faucet he has. We don't sell to the general public. The only way you're going to get this faucet is by going through PPG, i.e. Plumb Master, which is the distribution part of this company, which actually distributes the Wolverine Brass faucets. And you have to be a certified plumber, or you have to manage an institution, because the only way you're going to get these faucets. You know, Joe Schmo up the street, who just got a price quote from you, Matt, to put in this faucet, is not going to be able to go and look on the internet and find the price for this faucet. So it's a huge advantage for a plumber out in the field, because you're not going to sit there and get questions, well, you're charging me $150 in labor, and you're charging me $150 for the faucet, and why are you charging me $150 for the faucet if I can get it online for $105? Well, you're not going to have that problem here, because we don't sell to the general public. You can walk into a house, whether you or an institution, and say, look, I can put this faucet in for you, and here are the benefits of it. You're keeping American workers working down in South Carolina, where we manufacture many of these. You know, you have if you choose to tell them about the lifetime warranty, or 100-year warranty on the cartridge, you can tell them that as well. And by the way, there's a cartridge floating around. I passed out earlier, so if you guys want to take a look at that, you see it's a ceramic disc cartridge. We were actually the first company in the United States to patent that design, and we've been perfecting it ever since. As I mentioned before, the cartridges are provided ahead of time, and also many of these are interchangeable. I mean, you're talking about, between the two companies, there's about 100 or so different faucets, probably more than that, maybe 150. And you could probably get by with maybe 6 different cartridges for most of them. And that's a huge advantage, because you're not stocking 100 different cartridges. You're stocking maybe 10, let's say, even, you know, if you're carrying the entire line. Another big example is, let me ask somebody here who works at an institution, a big institution, hospital, so on and so forth. Okay, you in the back. What's your name? Tom. Great. Yeah, sorry, I saw you walked in late, so I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. Yeah. Tom, tell me, which hospital? Okay. All right. So, and how big's your hospital? How many beds are in that hospital? 400. Okay. So, which faucet line do you guys primarily use in there? TNS. Okay. Makes sense. It's very common in the hospital. Okay. What Have you ever met your T&S faucet rep? Twice a year? Okay. All right, so twice a year, your rep comes in, he tells you about some new products, asks you if you have any problems, et cetera, right? Okay. Well, he's doing something, and that's, I've heard stories where guys do less than that, but one of the big advantages you have here is, depending on where you're located at, obviously whatever location you're at, whether you're in New Jersey, PPG we have reps in 50 different states. So, all 50 states, including Alaska and Hawaii. So depending on where you are, you're going to have a rep that's assigned to your account, and his or her job is going to be your faucet rep. He's the faucet rep for this company. So, our reps typically go into their accounts every month or so, every 4 to 6 weeks. So what you have is a local rep who's present and is waiting to solve any of your issues. That's kind of what I highlighted up there, as you can see in the last line. That's a big advantage. You don't have to call up your guy from T&S and hope he fits you into a schedule. No, you have a local rep that probably lives within 20 miles of you, of your location, and you could just say, hey, can you stop in? I'm having trouble with the sprayer on the one faucet that we talked about before, or so on and so forth. So basically, you have the ability to have your rep there whenever you need them, and if there's a problem, they're going to be there fixing them. You may have a problem, as we talked before, nothing's perfect. You might have a bad cartridge, you might have a bad spout, you might have a bad sprayer, whatever it is. I mean, these things will happen, but the point is you have a local guy that's on call, ready to help you and solve the problem, and that's the issue. We're not a company that's not to say we're not going to have problems, but you could the point is identifying the problem and fixing the problem. And the bad reps don't do that. We like to think our reps that we hire are good reps, and they will do that. And I think that's very important. Any questions on that? Okay, pretty straightforward. Right, exactly. Okay. Yeah, well, that one, yeah, I just want to hold off on that one for a minute. We're actually getting into it in a second. You're asking about what else they offer. That was the question. Okay, yes. What else do these two companies have? That was asked. Okay, so they stock between the two companies there's over 25,000 different products. Take a look at this book here. Let me pick this up. There's 1,500 pages. This is the Plum Master version. There's also a Wolverine book. We have a few set aside. We're coming out with a new Plum Master book probably in the next 6 months, so I don't have any more of these to give out today, but I just want you guys to take a look at this. There's 1,500 pages in this book, all different brands. We have Delta, we have T&S, we have Toto, we have Kohler, we have Grohe. A lot of the hard-to-find products as well. Also, by the way, we also have a line of shower valves and bodies, which also have a 100-year warranty on the cartridge. We have the offices open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you get your order in by 4 p.m. and it's stock order and it's in stock, which we have about a 98% fill rate, it's going to ship that same day. We do a lot of USA-made products. You can see there also, by the way, the Silcox. We also manufacture the frost-free Silcox on the left. We have our own toilet line. But we manufacture a lot of things within the U.S. here. And I think that's important because you're keeping jobs within the U.S. and also keeping people to work. I mean, I know we do a lot of facilities like, VA hospitals we deal with. We do a lot of government school districts, housing authorities. They're all funded by government money, and I think, it's important that we, if you're getting money from American taxpayers, why don't you keep American taxpayers working as well? I think that's an important part of what we offer, and that's, we employ Americans, we put them to work, and we manufacture here, so let's keep the manufacturing jobs here in the U.S. Any questions about that so far? And like I said, I'll be available at the end of this as well to answer any more formal questions. So if you have a specific question for your property, I'll definitely be available to answer that as well. So, but any questions about the products? By the way, the sub pump, the Beast over there, it's a 1/2 horsepower sub pump. We're having it at a great price. Buy 3 or more at $99 a piece. That's just for this month. So just want to let you know that we have a sample over there on the side. So just keep that in mind as well. Moving on to water conservation. So on the first page here, I just want to list some good water-saving practices. Many of the people in this room already know this. You know about educating your employees, doing some basic things for your property. to make sure that you have the proper equipment in place, so on and so forth. But what I really want to get to was into the facts and figures about water usage. And by the way, this will all be available. As you know, we're taping this now, but a copy of this presentation and the audio will be available after we're done. So you know, this sheet will be in there. So if you want to review it more in depth, you can do that. So some facts and figures, and one of them really stuck out to me when I was setting up this presentation. The cost of water rose 41% just between 2010 and 2015. I mean, that's like the cost of college. I mean, that is really, that number stood out to me. And it really made me think, like, geez, can you imagine 41%? And as we move through here now, you know, now water's gotten so expensive in many places. Overall, in commercial applications, it's making up 24% of the entire utility cost. It used to be that, you know, 80% of your costs or more was just the electric, because that's just the common, that's the most common utility you're going to use. But now water is actually taking part of that away. It's now 24% of your entire utility cost in commercial applications. So who can provide a solution to this? We mentioned two companies before. Who's going to help save up to 30% on my water bill? How many people are in here to hear about this product? So we got 1, 2, 3. Okay, so most of the people, about half the people in here will want to hear about this product. So you all want to know how we can save up to 30% on your water bill, right? Well, there's the company, Capital Distribution. How many people have heard of this company? No, it's a relatively new company. But the product they have is called the Smart Valve. Now, how many people have heard of the Smart Valve in the room? No, look at that, no hand, one hand in the back. Okay, well, you probably shouldn't have. It's a relatively new product. It was just patented in 2014. It's an American-made product again. Patented water-saving device. You say there. Oh, skipped into that a second. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just get back to the other slide. Jump the gun there a little bit. Biggest thing I can tell you about this, what this device does is every incoming line to your property, to your residence, whatever application you're looking at, has air within the line. And what this device does is, as that air passes through your water meter, what's really going on is the water meter is reading the air that passes through it as water and effectively charging you for those air pockets, those pockets of air coming through. And what this device does, and I'm going to show you a video here in a second, it actually takes those bubbles, those pockets of air, and creates this constant pressure that's going to shrink those bubbles down to nothing. A little tiny bubble. So when they pass through the water meter, they're not counted. So the only thing once this device is installed in your property or for your customer or within their home, all you're going to be charged for is water moving forward. And you're also going to hear a couple other things here in a second about what other benefits it brings you. So let's go to the video since I kind of jumped the gun there a little bit already.
We are proud to introduce the Smart Valve, a patented and NSF certified precision engineered device that will save you money on your water bill by improving water meter accuracy and in many cases eliminate water overconsumption. When water flows through your water meter, it causes an internal paddle to spin in order to measure the volume of your water consumption. There are, however, problems with this method of measurement. First, water carries with it a volume of air, and since 99% of water meters measure...
Yeah, I can check on that for you in a second.
They cannot tell the difference between water and air. This means you're being charged for any volume of air as if it were water. Second, water is ideally delivered to the user at a pressure of 65 psi. Opening a fixture on the demand side, such as a hose, faucet, toilet, or sprinkler, causes a drop in water pressure. This pressure drop not only allows any air present to expand and have more volume, it also causes flow surges. Both of these conditions can cause overspinning of the water meter. It can also cause further inaccuracy because water meters are designed to work within a specific range of flow rate. Usage surges and low usage trickles can cause the meter to operate outside of the design range. In addition to these problems, many water users have a water pressure supply in excess of 65 psi. Because water fixtures are designed for a water supply of only 65 psi, Higher water pressure can cause overconsumption of water, as well as leaks, increased maintenance, and equipment failure. The solution to all of these issues is the smart valve. This seemingly simple, yet extremely effective variable flow management device solves the problems that are likely causing you to be billed for more water than you consume and to use more water than you want to. The smart valve is easily installed on the user side of the water meter. Its constant variable resistance creates the back pressure that appears on the supply side of the water meter. This creates a solid pour of pressurized water from upstream of the water meter to the smart valve. When air bubbles hit the pressure point before the water meter, they're compressed and pass through the water meter with no volume. This stops the meter from measuring the air and also eliminates overspin of the meter caused by lower resistance when air is present. Furthermore, the variable resistance of the smart valve acts as a shock absorber, maintaining a smooth and even flow profile, and the solid core of water eliminates pressure drops and surges at the water meter, which further prevents overspinning and protects your equipment and fixtures from damage and leaks due to pressure surges. In cases where city water pressure is above 65 psi, the smart valve will also act as a flow controller to alleviate oversupply of water due to high pressure. The smart valve was developed with 20 years of research, development, and testing in order to deliver a proven and reliable solution to these common problems. Its parts are made using only potable-grade stainless steel and acetron, a space-age resin that's incredibly strong, impact-absorbent, and self-lubricating, developed specifically for applications like the smart valve. Each smart valve is customized to match the configuration and conditions of your water system and comes with a 10-year manufacturer's warranty. And like any other energy investment project, the smart valve increases the appraised value of your property. How much will you save on your water bill? Because water usage has so many variables, it's impossible to accurately predict. However, most of our customers fall in the range between 10 to 25%, with a few seeing much higher savings. We offer a 90-day, no-question-asked satisfaction guarantee, so you can try it and see the savings for yourself. Save money, save water. The smart valve. It's brains for your water meter.
Okay, so I'll take in there, and I guarantee we got some questions here, don't we? So I just want to skip to the other screen here first, so because some of this is going to be, I'm sure we're going to get some install questions, and we're going to get a few other things along those lines. So let's see, I got a few hands up here. You in the back, go ahead. Okay, Tom, right? Okay. Okay, so the question was, how do we install the smart valve if it's going on the town side and if there's permits involved? Well, as you can see here in the top of this diagram here, the smart valve is actually installed on the user side of the water meter. It has all the necessary components. I know we had one person here that came down from Boston. Where are you? I know I met you in the other room. There you are. Okay. It is mass approved, which I know is a big thing up there. So it is mass approved. It has the ANSI code and so on and so forth. I know there's a bunch of other regulations, but it has them. Okay, we've installed these. We've had these installed across the country, different locations. But because it's on the user side of the water meter, it's not a require. It's not like if you're doing work on the town side and you have to get town approval, et cetera, et cetera. So to answer that question, yes, it's on the user side of the water meter, whether you're talking about a house or you're talking about an institution. The only things you need to know is it works best if it's within 25 feet of the meter. It goes in, if there's a backflow there present, you want to put it after the backflow, but before a pressure reducing valve, and obviously before a booster system or anything else like that, because that's how it's effective, because obviously if there's a booster system there, it's going to increase the air and it's not going to work properly. So basically after a pressure reducing valve, before after a backflow preventer and before a pressure reducing valve. So as you can see there on the bottom left there, it's a flange install. Now the smaller versions up to 2-inch, including the commercial sizes. So now, residential, you have 5/8, 3/4, 1-inch for the residential size, and then in commercial size, you have 1-inch and 2-inch. Those are all available on double thread, which makes it a very easy install for you guys. But anything bigger than that comes flanged, like you can see there in the bottom left. The equipment to install this, very minimal. Basically, if it's residential, as you can see there, just basically it's putting a hole in the pipe and slipping this device in the proper direction, obviously. And actually, I have a residential one here I'm going to pass around, so you can take a look here. Very simple install. I mean, frankly, I'm not a plumber. You guys, many in the room here are, but you're talking about for a residential install, I would think somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes, unless you have some issues there or something astronomical going on. I mean, it's basically shutting the water off, putting this back in, and repiping it with it installed. I mean, it's a pretty simple install. Commercial gets a little trickier. We sell these up to 12 inches. So depending on how big the line is, common, as we know, is like a 6-inch line for many of the bigger properties. It's a flanged install, so you'd obviously have to shut the water down. We know that already. Before this, on the user side of the water meter, you can remove the bolts there, take the flange off, change the gasket, drop this in if there's enough room, and boom, you just rebolt it up. Or you might have to, do the same thing, cut the pipe and put this in, and then set up another set of flanges. But most cases, you're able to use the flange that's there and set this right in there. Now, the big thing from a commercial standpoint, you're talking about our ROI, return on investment, of 2 years or less. And that's a very big factor because you're talking about a product that has a 10-year warranty on it. Okay, I say set it and forget it, just like those old George Foreman grills, or not the George Foreman grills, the old rotisserie ovens back in the day. That set it and forget it. That's what this item is. Once you guys either have this installed or install it yourselves, there's nothing else to do to it. There's no testing it. There's no other, you're not going back and have to do any maintenance on it. And it's got a 10-year warranty. So, I mean, it's once the product's installed, all you're going to do is see savings. And, okay, yes, in the back. Did I answer your question? Okay. In the back there. Okay, Carol, right? Okay. Okay, Carol's question was, go ahead. Okay. How do you know how much, the question basically, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but how do you know I'll save 30% of my water? Okay, good question. The answer is I don't. I said you could save up to 30% of your water. And in all reality, I'll be completely honest. I've heard savings as low as 6%. Excuse me, I got a drink of water there. I was getting a little thirsty. I've seen savings as low as 6%. I've seen savings as high as 37%. I know typically most cases fall between 12 and 24% savings. 30%, and I have seen that happen many, obviously I've seen 37%, but, I've seen it reach the high 20s many times. I've seen it in the teens. I think the real factor here is whether you're talking about commercial or residential, is the ROI, return on your investment, because you're looking at 2 years or less, whether you manage the property or you're putting it in for a commercial property, you're looking at 2 years or less. On the residential side, it's a little bit longer. We know that the water usage and water cost is not as much as compared to an institution, particularly apartment complexes, college dorms. We've even had cases where we put these in for laundromats, so on and so forth. So, on the commercial side, when, we at the hospital we're looking at now, there's 2 million gallons of water a month. And one of the first questions I got was, well, if you can't guarantee 30%, then why am I going to put this in? I said, well, because honestly, if you're spending $20,000, let's say, to put this device in, or, cost of the item and cost of the labor, let's say it costs you $30,000. So you're using 2 million gallons of water a month. And what if you only save 5% or 10%? I said, you're still going to make your money back in 2 years or less. I said, so this is a no-brainer. You might make your money back in 5 months. If you happen to have enough savings where you get up to 25, 30%, you might make your money back in less than a year. So, I mean, and that's why we offer the 90-day return policy, because nobody sends it back. I'll be honest, companies don't offer that. Companies that offer that, they have a good, solid product, which is why it has a 10-year warranty, okay? And they know nobody's going to return them, otherwise they wouldn't offer it. If they stand, we're standing behind the product because it's a solid product. And if you were to go install this and put this in on April 1st of this year, and check your water bills for April, May, and June, and compare them to April, May, and June of 2016, we're telling you you're going to see a saving unless something drastic has changed. Now, if you run an apartment complex and last year you had 150 people living there, and this year you have 250 people living there, well, yeah, you're not going to see a savings probably, because you're talking about adding a lot more water usage. But all things being equal, you compare the next 3 months you put this in at compared to the same time period last year, you're going to see a savings. There's no question about it. It's a question of how much. It's like saying you've won the lottery, so you're either going to win $100 or $1 million, but you're going to win something. So if I tell you that lottery ticket's going to cost you $10, but you're going to win at least 100 and maybe $1 million, I think you're going to buy one. So, I mean, it's a very set it and forget it device. You don't have to worry about it. It works. And like I said, it shouldn't bother you exactly not knowing it, because nobody can figure that out. Nobody knows exactly how much water you're going to save, because nobody knows exactly how much air is in there. Nobody knows exactly what your pressure is. And, that's part of it too. This also acts kind of as a pressure reducing valve in a sense that you're going to see 3 to 5% reduction in your pressure. So if your pressure is 75 coming in right now, and you have a 2-story small apartment complex, this is going to reduce your pressure down a little bit. But 65, we all know, is the magic number. So we can get you there. You're also going to see, an improvement on the savings because of that, because you're having a steady 65 gallon per minute come through. 65 psi coming in, and it's going to be a steady stream that's going to eliminate a lot of that air going through the meter. Does that make sense to everybody? Any other questions on this? Lead time on these is typically 1 to 2 weeks from date you order. They're customized. So on a residential side, all we need to know right now is what the PSI is and obviously what size it is. But it's still custom designed based on that. The commercial side is a 1-page cheat sheet, so to speak. Basically asking questions like, what type of equipment is there? Is there a pressure reducing valve there? Is there a backflow preventer there? Is there a booster system? Is there irrigation? What type of material is the pipe made of? Basic questions there. We look for some pictures too. It's something that's got to be filled out because it's also custom design, but it's pretty straightforward. 1-page document needs to be filled out. Any questions on that? Okay, and I'll be available to, obviously, if you have more questions, specific questions for your property, I can definitely address those at the end. So moving on, water damage. Anybody who's maintained a property or worked at a property, specifically probably apartment complexes, so on and so forth, we've seen these pictures before, and they're not fun, because we know what this means. It means money, and it means cleanup. One picture I found, I just put this in the slide the other day. If you look at this middle picture on the top here, you're not going to believe me when I tell you, but I did put a link down here at the bottom. It's true. I know everything on the internet's true, right? Yeah, I know. But this, supposedly, if the picture is true, is the result of a water heater in China leaking and flowing down the side of the building and freezing. I also just saw a tsunami, a lake tsunami up in a video online of up in Minnesota where the water was coming off the lake and it was freezing instantly because it was so cold. But all you saw were these. You saw that one too? Yeah. You saw this ice blowing up, and it actually went into this guy's house, knocked his door down, pushed right through, and went right through his living room. I mean, it was really wild. If you Google Lake Tsunami, Minnesota, and pull it up, you see it's wild. And the flooding and water in general, it's one of the biggest friends. Our bodies are made up of it, and made up primarily of it. But it's also one of it probably is the most deadliest element on the face of the earth, between the damage it can cause in so many different ways. So we talked about, and I passed around earlier, and you saw some products on the side there, some best practices for flood prevention. Does anybody know what pay me now or pay me later means? Right. Okay. So pay me now means, okay, you can buy the better angle stop, let's say, the better P-trap. You can put in safety devices. You can put in no burst supply lines into your property. You can buy the quality stuff. It's more expensive, but you're paying for it up front. It's in there. It's going to lower your risk of having a flood within your property or in your customer's home. Or you can go up to Home Depot, and save a couple bucks on that angle stop, save a couple bucks on the P-trap and on the supply line, put something like that in, but increase your chances of having the P-trap leak or have the supply line burst or the angle stop blow off. Okay, and the biggest difference I'd like to say is that when you lower your risk, you know what the cost is going to be. You know you're going to pay an extra $2 for that angle stop or an extra $1 for the supply line. And you know that up front. If you don't do that and you put in a knockoff international piece of junk that was made somewhere overseas, what you don't control anymore is the cost if you do have a flood. We all talk about, how many people here work for or in apartment complexes? Okay. Think of a 10-story apartment complex. What happens if the guy on the 10th floor, him and his wife go away for a 2-week cruise, 10-day cruise, whatever it is, and on day 2 of them leaving, the supply line in the bathroom, in bathroom 1, bursts? Well, you got water flowing. So because they're not there, well, the apartment's going to have a lot of water damage. But where's that water going to go? The apartment's not going to fill up like a fish tank. The water's going to flow. It's going to go down. It's going to go left. It's going to go right. It's going to go any direction it can. So you're not talking about one issue. If the couple's home and the supply line bursts, oh, geez, hopefully he knows what he's doing. He can shut the water off to his bathroom. But assuming he can, oh, no, we have a spill on the bathroom floor. No big deal. But if they're gone for days, how long is it going to take before somebody realizes that there's water and it's in multiple apartments on multiple floors now? It's a scary thought. I mean, water is, and then that's before you even start talking about mold, which we'll go into in a minute. Another best practice to see here in the second main bullet down, there's leak detection systems out there, such as WaterCop. How many people have heard of WaterCop here in the room? Okay, a few. All right. So unique system, as you can see there, these are dual sensors, so you can protect 2 different places at once, but you can place these sensors throughout, your home or even a section of an institution. And, we're talking about toilets, talking about faucets, dishwashers, washing machines, water heaters, etc. Place these sensors all throughout your home, or like I said, even a commercial area if you need to. And if one of those sensors gets wet, it sends a wireless signal back to shut off the incoming water to the home or to that location. As you can see there, the little ball valve there, that will operate and shut the water off. So all you would lose is the water that's in the line at that point. And they work within about 150 feet of the actual actuator there. So it's something to think about as well. And then last line, as we all know, all water heaters leak. If you're going to protect your water heater, you want the Cadillac. In other words, if you're going to spend the money and invest the money on putting a protection device on your water heater, you don't want to put the Yugo. You want to put a Cadillac on there. So some facts and figures. The reason why I'm focusing on water heaters is we all know they leak. It's not a question of when, or it's not a question of how, it's a question of when or if, it's when. 5 million water heaters are replaced in a single year. 70% of the leaks come from the tank itself. They don't come from the incoming line. They don't come from the outgoing line or any of the parts in between. They come from the tank itself. Average residential damage is over $2,500. Commercial damage is over $10,000, and that's before you start talking about the mold removal, which is again can go into the thousands as well. Interesting, and you, sir, said you were up in Mass. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, if you've come across this, but first off, overall across the country, a lot of insurance companies will say, hey, you have a building and you have a water heater, you put a claim in for a water heater leak. Now we want you to change all the water heaters in your building, otherwise we're canceling your policy. Very common, because they know if the water heaters are the same age, one goes, they know another one's going to go, and they don't want to pay multiple claims. They're going to say, hey, look, this one just went. You put this one in about the same time. It's probably getting ready to go too. We want you to change them out, and they'll require that. Massachusetts now requires, when there's occupancy below, you need to have a water pan that has piping that will also bring that water out in case there's a leak, and in some cases requiring an automatic shut-off device or both. And the biggest stat, and no, this is not a typo, but in many cases, in many cases, people don't bring a claim because they're afraid of losing their policy. But average deductible is about $10,000. But up in the Northeast here, we've seen it as high as $25,000. And let me repeat that: $25,000 deductible, not $2,500, $25,000. Now, when you have a $25,000 deductible, you're not going to use it as well. We hope you're not going to use it, because the deductible is so high. It's like having not having insurance. What's that? Obamacare? Yeah. As somebody said in the back, yeah, it's like having Obamacare, where you buy insurance and never use it. Yeah, it's something you're required to have, and we're not going to get political here today, but I understand where you're going with that. So, so what's the answer to all this? The Cadillac, which is the WID. And I have one here. I'm going to pass it around. So, water heater isolation device, and 3 main benefits this device provides. I'm going to pass this around so we can see it here. Now, there are devices out there that do some things that the WID does, but it does shut off the incoming water supply. So you see here in the diagram on the top right, it's asphyxiated on the incoming supply line. There is a piece of tubing that goes between, as you can see there on the other diagram. And then you have a check valve, double check valve on the outgoing line. So what's the benefit of this device is that it will shut the incoming water off. If there's a leak, and this works off the PSI in the tank. So what happens is, if there's a leak in the tank, there's going to be a drop in PSI. This device is going to recognize that. When it hits a certain level, it's going to shut the incoming water off. And the other benefit it does, which I'm going to get to in a second here, is that it's going to hold the water in the water. It's going to create a vacuum, which keeps the remaining water in the tank, which gives you a protection that no other device on the market has. What do you mean, Mike? Well, think this way. You get a leak in the side of the tank, water starts to drip out. Other devices out there, when that water drips out, if they have a sensor, it's going to pick that up, and it's going to shut the incoming water off. This device, but it's not going to stop the water from coming out that's in the tank. You might have 50 or 60 gallons in there. What this device does is not only shut the incoming water off, but it's also going to create a vacuum within to hold the rest of that water in the tank. And you ask, how does it do that? Well, think about if you take a straw, stick it into a glass of water, put your finger over the top of the straw and lift up. What have you done? Well, you've just created a vacuum yourself, and that's why it's holding that water in the straw. It's the same type of concept. So that's a big point there. Thermal expansion. We know that if the expansion tank fails, you could have an issue. And what happens is water is going to escape from the T&P valve, temperature and pressure valve. And this is just a point to let you know that if the T&P valve activates, or water comes out of the TP valve, the wid's going to activate as well. And I'm going to get to questions here in a second, but I want to mention that the reason why this is the Cadillac of devices is it not only shuts the incoming water off, but also creates a vacuum. It holds the remaining water in the tank, and there's no other device out there that does it. It's a patented device. Does not require any additional piping, as you saw from the illustration on the previous page. Sits right on the incoming line. The other side of the part goes on the outgoing line. Okay. No piping, no batteries, no power, no panel, but we know it's a good practice to have that, and there's no sensors. So, some of these other devices out there, WaterStop, the WAG, they're all required by sensor. WAG, for example, if it gets wet, you have to throw it out and get a new one. The WID is also reusable, and it can be tested. So theoretically, and not even directly, I've seen it done actually, is where you can install this device on a water heater, bring your customer downstairs and say, listen, I'm going to show you how this works. You can take open a valve to the tank, put a cup under it, let the water out. After that cup's going to be about halfway filled, the wid's going to activate. This part right here, this little red button's going to pop out. And when it does, the wid's going to activate. And what happens is it shuts the incoming water off, creates the vacuum. It also alerts the homeowner it's being activated. How does it do that? When the wid activates, it sends a little bit of water up that plastic line there on the right. You see it? That connects from the solenoid over to the double check valve. It's going to send a little bit of water up that line. And where that water is going to go is upstairs to the home. So when somebody upstairs turns the faucet on and looks for hot water, all that's going to happen is the faucet's going to drip. That's the sign to the homeowner, hey, we have a problem. This can also be installed vertically or horizontally. Very important feature, especially if you're dealing in a tight area. Apartment complexes sometimes have these in the ceiling, meaning the water heaters. There may not be a lot of room, so you can use this vertically or horizontally to install it. The other benefit of this as well, like I said, it is reusable and it can be tested. You can test it for your customer. The inner tank, actually, almost forgot a very important point here. As we all know, water heaters are made up of an air tank, layer of insulation, and then the outer shell. Typically, when you have no protection on you, or even if you have a protection device that has a sensor, the way you find out you have a leak is the inner tank springs a leak, water hits the insulation between the two, and that gets saturated. After that gets saturated, then eventually what happens is that outer shell starts to rust because the water's pressing up against it. And when that outer shell rusts, that's when you start getting a leak. So only then do you know, once it's all rusted out and it's a nasty situation, that you have a leak in the tank. With the WID, more often than not, when that inner tank springs the leak, that's when you're alerted, because when the inner tank springs the leak is when the PSI in the tank drops. So when the PSI drops, then the WID realizes that and it activates. Any questions on that? I covered everything on there. All right, you have a question specific for your property. Well, if you want, bring it. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. We have time. There's a dog outside there. Yeah, we're in a lounge here, so sometimes the people. There are some apartments up on the other side there. Sometimes they're walking their dog. So yeah, you do hear that. Okay, so the question was warranty. Okay. The solenoid is guaranteed for 5 years. The internals are guaranteed for 2 years, I believe. It's either 2 or 1. I'll check for that to make sure. But we've never had a problem with the internals going, and the reason for that is that you constantly have water flowing through this. So the internal parts are always moving. They're not sitting there gathering rust or anything, because anytime there's a demand for water, the parts inside the WID are moving. So there's some that have been installed for 5 years. And by the way, in many cases, when the water heater goes, a lot of customers take the lid with them or remove the lid and put it onto the new water heater. So it is transferable. It's not a one, and it's reusable too. So if it does activate it, you can use it multiple times, or some products out there you can't. And the price, oh yes, the pricing down here, I didn't touch on that. Our normal list price on these are $399.99. If you get it now between the end of March, $305. Okay, and obviously, if you're redoing an entire complex, we can talk more. There is a bulk rate as well based on a certain amount, but just talk to me offline on that if you guys are looking to change them out in the entire property. Okay. Any questions? Okay, great. Let's just sum up today. We talked about two different companies. I talked about PPG, which is Wolverine Brass and Plum Master. And we talked about capital distribution. And I wanted to break down just to sum up and give you this page so you can see where everything is. PPG, if you're looking for faucets that are American-made 100-year cartridge, that's your go-to spot for it. Angle stops, U.S. tubular. They also have ball valves, and for you residential plumbers, they also do a customization program where you can customize the ball valves with your name on them. It's a very incredible system. They're actually one of the first companies to do that in the United States, where you can put your name on the ball valve. They have their own toilet line, own sub pumps, frost-free Silcox, basket strainers. They do, as I mentioned about the custom side, they do that. Also, one thing I didn't mention before, PPG also has a group of about 10 guys and girls inside who, if you have a part that an older part or a part you're not familiar with, and you want to research it, or you're not sure where it's, who makes it or where to get a replacement for it, if you send your rep a picture of it and some little bit of information, there's actually a team inside, very experienced team. Most of these guys have been there 20, 30 years, that can take a look at your picture and research the part for you, which is a big time saver, and it can obviously free you up to do other things. So it's another added benefit. When you become a customer of PPG, you have your own research team there that can do this for you. So another added benefit. And as I mentioned before, on the sides here, you have some different products. Check out the sub pumps. There's some literature over there on the toilet line, which is a very good solid line where everything you need to install the toilet comes in the same box, including the toilet seat and a brass shank fill valve. So something else to think about too. And again, the toilet, another thing that they sell only direct to the professional plumber, direct to the institution, so you can't get it anywhere else. And like I said, it's a company that's been in business since the 1800s. So that's where you'd find those items. And then, we talked about capital distribution. Smart valve, I know everybody here in the room pretty much was here to see that today. And, we talked about saving up to 30% on water. One of the things they're doing in the next couple months, for the next 2 months, I believe it is that since they also handle VFD booster systems, they're offering a package if you end up getting a smart valve and a booster system from them at the same time. You're going to get an additional 10% off. And one of the things with the booster systems, especially here in New Jersey, and there's different programs in every state, but in New Jersey, it's a great time, especially if you have a standard drive system, to put in a variable frequency drive system to save on the energy cost, because if you save enough energy based on that change, there are rebate programs within New Jersey that you can get up to half the cost of the system and of the installation back from the state for putting it in. And in many cases, these booster systems can save you, I've seen them over $1,200 a month in some cases in electric, saving the customer that much. So, it's a great time to look into it. They can send a rep out to take a look at your property, see, and give you an estimate in terms of how much energy you could save by putting a booster system in. And they can also do an estimate on the smart valve as well, because if you provide your water bills, they can say, if you fall into this range, you're going to save X amount of dollars, and you'll get a return on investment in X amount of months. So another added benefit there. I'll answer questions on that in a second, but just want to cover the last few things here. We talked about the WID, which is the Cadillac of protection for your water heaters. If you're going to protect the water heater, it's going to leak eventually. Why not put the best thing in there? Do you want to be the guy that's going to get liability insurance for your brand new Porsche, or you're going to get the comprehensive insurance. So if you're going to pay for it, you might as well put the best thing in, pay me now or pay me later. That's your choices. Water cop is another one of the good practices for preventing flooding, protect multiple areas from flooding, so on and so forth. You can get that from Capital Distribution as well. And coming soon, they have a new item coming out called Scale Buster for, as we all know, anybody who's got piping or large piping, especially within your institution. We get a lot of buildup in there, deposits, and it basically decreases the flow, makes the fixtures lifespan go down. They have a new product that's coming out that's going to solve that probably in the next 45 to 60 days. So keep it, go on their website, take a look at that. Both websites are listed on the bottom there. Check those out, and yes, see if follow them on Facebook. They have some social media pages there, and to be able to see when that comes out, and to be able to check out and see if it'll fit your property as well. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, you asked about the rebate program. Okay. I'm not sure, are you from New York or New Jersey? Okay. New York is similar. I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure New York is similar in the sense that they offer up to half on the cost of the system, but I don't believe they cover the labor. Okay, and so the people in here know, let's just ask, does New York offer a similar rebate as New Jersey? And a lot of states do actually, but New York, I'm pretty sure, I'm 95% sure that they offer up to half the cost of the system, but not the labor. New Jersey covers up to half the cost of the labor and half the cost of the system. So if you were to spend $20,000 on a system, and let's say the labor was $10,000, you could get up to $15,000 back. Okay, that makes sense? The paper, okay. So the process for New Jersey, and I don't know the process for every state off the top of my head. I'm sure the Capital Distribution guys know this like that, but I don't have every detail of it. But here's the way it works. You decide to purchase the system from Capital Distribution, okay? There's a pre-site visit where a representative comes out from the state of New Jersey, views the system you have, says, okay. They pre-qualify you, meaning Capital Distribution does. They actually do the paperwork for you. And what happens is they charge you a fee of $199, but as long as you purchase the system through them, they take that off the cost of the system, okay? So there's a pre-site visit, you pay for the system, and they offer financing as well. Capital Distribution offers a financing program, so if you don't have the funds in your budget, you can finance it. In a lot of cases, what happens is, because the energy savings is so great, that actually ends up, they make money, the property makes money by putting the system in, because they may take a loan for 4 years at, let's say, $500 a month, and a month by putting a system in, because that's their electric cost going down, and it's that much more energy efficient. So a lot of times it makes sense to finance it, even if you don't have the money in the budget. So in any case, getting back to your question, the system's paid for. Capital Distribution ships you the system. You have it installed. The state comes out and does a post-site inspection. From there, once they see that the new system is installed, and they take the readings to make sure that the energy savings is accurate, you then submit a check to the state of New Jersey for $75, I believe it is, or $70, one of the two. And the state, basically you're paying the state to run a lien check, make sure that your property doesn't owe any money to the state or back taxes or anything like that. Assuming that all gets cleared, from the date that that's cleared, it's, I believe, 60 days, 60 to 75 days from that date that you will receive your check for up to half the cost. So good example, and I'm glad you asked the question because I was going to bring this up, but as you using the example from before, you spend $20,000 in the system, you spend $10,000 in the labor, it's $30,000. Okay, you finance that over 5 years, let's say. So your monthly payments are, let's say, $600 a month, just for round numbers here. Okay, your savings, let's just say, are $800 a month. So you're actually making $200 a month by putting the system in, because you finance it. You didn't put anything out of pocket. Now, what a lot of properties do is once they'll start the financing, pay the $600 a month, okay? Then once they get the rebate check from the state, which in this case, the maximum would be $15,000, they take that check and they put that down, pay down the loan. Or in another situation, they may actually put in for capital expense, but don't want to wait, so they do the financing, and there's some different financing options. I know there's like an interest-only option. There's, there's an application right online too that you can fill out. But I don't want to spend too much time on this, those other questions. But basically, a lot of times it makes sense because you're saving money. You're saving more money than you're actually spending to put the system in. And once it's about, it's a 3-year warranty on the systems as well. A lot of times, we were talking about return on investment before. A lot of times, the return on investment is, again, you usually get your money back before it's even out of warranty. So it's a huge benefit there. Any other questions on this? I mean, I'll definitely be around to take questions offline as well. But for our listening group that's receiving this afterwards, we may say goodbye to them. If anybody, unless anybody has any other questions to add before we do. Okay, great. We're going to close out the online system. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.